Hello and good morning, friends. Today we're going to be taking a look at a septic system on a bank-owned property that hasn't been occupied for several years. So we don't really know what we're walking into. We haven't received the records, but I'm going to walk you through it with me as we figure out what's going on here. Let's get into it. Alrighty, so the first thing we're going to see is we're going to see this access point right here. Now, this is what we refer to as a cleanout or a snake line. This is designed so that we have a clog between the home and the tank. Rather than opening the pipe in the house and having stuff come back towards you, you can open this up, run your snake through the line, dislodge whatever's clogged up, and so that way if anything starts to bubble up and out, it's a lot easier just to spray this down than it is to try and redo any stuff in the house. So now we see this, we know that that's good because this is accessible at grade. This allows us to see what's going on inside the pipe, and we can see here that we have a PVC clean out in the front and a manhole riser in the middle. So that's a good sign. Now, everything looks like it's in decent shape so far, but we haven't quite opened the tank yet, but we're just kind of getting an idea of the lay of the land. So we've got our tank here, and then we can see a dark line in the grass right there. So we're thinking that might be where the drain fields are. So in a second, we're gonna pop all these lids open, see what we're working with, depending on the depth, dig up the lid in the back so we can find the distribution box, and then confirm that yes, those are our drain fields. So let me get this open and I'll show you what's going on inside of here in a second. All right, so now we've got everything open. We've got our clean out in the front open, we got our riser in the middle open, and we've got the lid on the back open. So let's go ahead and take a look, see what we're working with. So if we look in here, we'll actually see that we have a lot of soil intruding inside of the riser. Now, when soil's getting in there, that means that groundwater can also get in. Now, how it's getting in is going to be because it's slightly recessed in the ground and we're on a hill, right? So as the rain comes through, the water will go in and then the soil gets stuck inside of here. Now, it's not an immediate concern, but it's definitely something you want to make sure you pay attention to. If you have a buried riser, you run a higher risk of getting groundwater into your system, which can cause additional stress on your septic. Now, from here, we're actually going to take a look at the outlet line. So we can see here that we have a concrete back baffle, which is going to be this guy right here. The goal of that baffle is to prevent all the debris and floating scum from getting into that outlet line and causing a clog. Super important that your system has one of these in place. Every septic system will have one, and they come in a variety of shapes, sizes, and colors. So this particular one's concrete, which is perfectly fine, but sewer gas is very corrosive. So we can see how it's got some texture on it. It should be as smooth as the top of the tank right there, but you can see how it's all lumpy and chunky. The sewer gases are slowly eating this thing up, and eventually it'll get so weak that it'll fall off on its own weight. So it's super important whenever you get your tank pumped, they're pumping it from here so that they can look to see, is that still there? If it ever falls off, it's very important to spend the money to get a new baffle installed so that way you don't run any risks of clogs or backups. Now, if we look on the inside of here, we can actually see that the seal around the outlet line has failed and water is actually escaping underneath of the pipe. You might be saying to yourself, I don't really care if I don't have a good seal on the outlet line. What's possibly the worst that can happen? And you know, that's a fair criticism. Now, what the worst that can happen is technically your tank's leaking. In our state, all tanks are supposed to be watertight. No sewage should be able to escape the tank except for where it's intended to escape, which is the drain field. So one, you're going against code, you know, to each their own on that. But the bigger issue is that if you do that for long enough, you're actually going to start to erode the soil underneath, and you're going to get a cavitation, right? And what will happen is eventually just get a sinkhole, or somebody will, step on it, and then the ground will collapse, and then they might hurt themselves. So is it the end of the world? No, but it's super important to make sure that you're not letting stuff like that happen, so that nobody gets hurt, or so that we don't have any damage that eventually ends up costing you money to fix. So this one's a pretty straightforward, easy repair. Generally what they'll do is they will go ahead and dig up around the outside of the tank, cut the pipe, run a new pipe, and then they'll pack some hydraulic cement on the inside, or on the outside of the tank, right? That's usually the easiest way to do it, but to each their own on how they do it themselves, right? Next thing we're gonna want to talk about are the drain fields. So how this works is you put water into the tank, the water will then go to the distribution box, which is gonna be a little concrete deal right over where that flag is. And generally these are only gonna be about, 12 by 18. They're not super huge, but the goal of the distribution box is to allow even dispersion of the liquid into the drain fields, which are gonna be over here. So what is a drain field, you might be asking? A drain field is just gonna be a 2 to 3 feet wide trench, 6 to 10 feet deep, 50 to 100 feet long, backfilled with stone. Actually, how these drain fields work are kind of like a French drain. As the water goes from the tank to the distribution box, the water will then go into the trenches that'll have a perforated pipe. That perforated pipe allows the water to escape and into the stone. The stone's there so that way the soil is kind of opened up to basically disperse into the surrounding soil. Over the course of 30 or 40 years, the system will eventually fail. That's why it's very important to make sure that you have this checked every 5 to 10 years to make sure that somebody can look at the full system to let you know what's going on in your system. It's basically like a giant utility. It's a cost of just owning a house that nobody ever really thinks about. But by basic maintenance, basic checkups, pumping the tank, which is the most important thing you can do, you can get your absorption system to last significantly longer than 30 years. For example, this house was from the 1980s. Again, hasn't been occupied for quite a while, but the stone's perfectly dry. Everything's draining the way that it's supposed to drain, which is good, right? It'd be bad if we show up and it's been vacant for a while and the stone's completely wet. So let me know below, have you ever had your septic fully inspected? Maybe it was when you were purchasing the house. Maybe it's because something went wrong. Leave a comment below. Let me know. Now, as far as septic systems go, this one is pretty straightforward. They come in a lot of different sizing, shapes, even compositions of like, maybe there's an aerator, maybe there's a pump, maybe there's something else going on. Most conventional septic systems in our area will kind of look like this. So maybe yours also looks like this. Now, if yours doesn't look like it, don't panic. Everybody does it a little bit different. Every county does it a little bit different. Every state does it a little bit different. So it's not the end of the world if your system doesn't look like our systems, or if our system doesn't have anything remotely close to the way that you guys do it. Not a big deal. Now, I hope that you found this useful. I hope that you found this informative. If you enjoy content like this, I have videos posted every day on the world of well and septic. Hit that like button, hit subscribe, and until next time, guys.